welcome back to Books with Brandywine. Today I wanted to talk about a series that I just read, which is the trilogy for To All the Boys I Have Loved Before. I read the first book and the last book for the Biblio Games readathon, and then since I was enjoying it so much and I had so much free time, I decided to read the middle book too, obviously, before I got to the third book, because that'd be kind of weird to just, read the first book, read the third book, skip to the second book afterwards. So I read all three of them, and oh my gosh, okay, so I totally adored this series, and I cannot wait to tell you guys about it. So, if you know from watching my videos, I lean heavily towards fantasy. I read a little teensy tiny bit of sci-fi, like one sci-fi a year. I don't really read contemporaries very often. If I do read them, they're usually for readathons because there'll be some prompt that has kind of something to do with it, and so I will do that. Like for the Owls readathon, I read a contemporary because one of the prompts was to read a contemporary. But other than that, I usually don't pick up contemporaries on my own, although some of them have piqued my interest, and one of those was To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I kept hearing people talking about this series in all of their videos, and obviously I knew that the Netflix movie was coming out, and so I was very, very curious about it. And then I think it was like a month or so ago, I was at Target and I saw it was 20% off, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's pick it up. So I bought the first book, and then when the Bibliothon came up, I was like, well, this is like a perfect time to get to read it. And I was dying to watch the Netflix movie, and I really, really wanted to read the book first. And so that just further prompted me to get to the book as soon as possible. And I'm really glad I did, because it turns out I love this series. I read the first book, and I read it, like, super fast. I think in a day or two. I could not put this book down. And so I immediately went to the store and got the next two books in the series. And I think that out of the three, my favorite is the first book. I did still enjoy the second two books, but my favorite was definitely the first book. And so I loved the series. I'm so glad I read it. So the first two books, To All the Boys I've Loved Before and P.S. I Still Love You, they take place back to back. And then the third book, Always and Forever, Lara Jean, I had to practice that. But this one took place like a year after these ones. So these two are her junior year, and this one is her senior year of high school. And in the third book, she points out that Lara is not pronounced Laura. And that's how I was pronouncing it the whole time in my head. So apparently I've been also pronouncing Lara Croft wrong. So, yeah. So the first two books, basically what happens is she has been writing letters to every boy that she's ever fallen in love with, which totals 3 boys. And if, like, something happens that she can't, like, love them anymore, like in the case of one of the boys, he starts dating her sister, one of the boys is dating one of her best friends, whatever something happens that for whatever reason the love cannot be requited, she writes them a letter, and she pours out all of her feelings into the letter, everything that she's thinking into the letter, and then that letter is just going to be the end of it. And so once she has written the letter, the feelings that she holds inside go away, and she is purged, and she can move on with her life. And she keeps these 5 letters in a hat box that her mom bought her, I think when she was like in France or something. And she has these letters in envelopes that have the addresses of the boys on them. And I think she kept them so that she could read them occasionally. I don't remember if she actually read them. That might just be something that was in the movie. Once I see the movies, my brain tends to mix the two stories, and so that causes issues for me. But, by accident, somehow, the letters all get sent out. And it could not be worse timing for these letters to get sent out. For one thing, she doesn't want the boys to know that she had feelings for them, and for another thing, one of the boys is going to her sister's boyfriend, and another letter is going to, like I said, one of her old best friend's boyfriends, and it's really, really bad timing. And so, the first book follows the aftermath of that. And actually, I guess in a way, the second book follows the aftermath as well, because one of the boys that that a letter was written to ends up becoming huge in her life in the second book. And that probably wouldn't have happened if the letter hadn't gotten out. In fact, the main boy that becomes huge in her life wouldn't have happened if the letters hadn't gotten sent out. And so the first book is the aftermath. The second book is her trying to figure out relationships. The third book is her planning her future and what college she's going to go to, and just, I don't want to say what she's going to do for the rest of her life, but like the next immediate after her life after high school. And and like the third book, like I had a prevailing theory of what was going to happen, and I'm actually really glad it didn't happen, but I was just like, there's so much foreshadowing going on, like this is totally going to happen, but it didn't happen. But that's not the third one. Here's the third one. This one's the third one. But it, at one point, like, I was getting really, really frustrated because I was like, this is not going to have a satisfactory ending, and I did not want to have to go through 3 books and not be happy with the ending. But it had a very, very satisfying ending, just so you know. So if you're looking for, I don't think it's a rom-com because I didn't think it was really funny, but like a chick flick in book form that has just like a good ending, like definitely read all 3 of the, like read the series. Like the series is perfect for that. So in addition to the storyline, which I just thought was interesting, like I had to read it because I had to find out who she was going to end up with and what was going to happen, which was like kind of the same reason I finished reading Hunger Games. I mean, sure, I enjoyed the story, but really I just wanted to find out who she was going to end up with. And that was the same for Twilight too, I think. I just wanted to find out who she was going to end up with. So that's why I had finished reading these books. One of the things that I absolutely loved about these books is Lara Jean loves to bake, like all the time. She is straight up baking. That's like her favorite activity besides scrapbooking, which is another one of my favorite activities. And so through the whole book, like the whole series, she is baking all the time, and she comes up with some really, really good recipes. I don't think they're at the end of this one. They are. So in the first book, they have a tradition in their family that they do a Christmas cookie bonanza, I think is what it's called. And they bake like all these, Christmas cookie bonanza. They bake all of these cookies and they put them in containers and they hand them out to like all their friends and family and stuff. And so at the end of the book, at least at the end of the edition I have, she actually includes some of the recipes. So they have Lara Jean's cowgirl cookies, Kitty's favorite snickerdoodles, Kitty's the littlest sister, the infamous fruitcake cookies, Josh's favorite white chocolate cranberry cookies, and Josh is the next door neighbor who's dating her sister. And so she's cooking through the whole thing. She'll make cakes, she'll make cookies. I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of like baked goods that she makes, but I'm sure she can make pretty much any like baked goods. Like, it is so delicious. And reading these books, like, I wanted to eat all of the cookies that they're eating. Plus her family, which consists of her dad. Her mom passed away when she was little, so she's not there. And then the big sister, Margot, who is gone off to college. And then Lara Jean, who's the middle sister. And Kitty, whose real name is Catherine, but they call her Kitty, who's the youngest sister. Like, they're always eating. So they'll either make food at the house or they'll go out and get food. And she always describes the food. And oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much that she describes all this food. Like, I just wanted to eat all kinds of food reading these. And in fact, in the last book, Always and Forever, Lara Jean, she's trying to perfect the perfect chocolate chip cookie. And so that's like one of the minor plot lines that goes throughout the book, is she's trying to figure out this cookie, and she describes like different ways she tries to cook the cookie. And she even like, she ends up going to New York and she tries like these famous cookies that are there, which I had to like, okay, so she visits all these places in New York. And I don't know if you guys saw my post on Twitter, but like my favorite part about all of the BookCon and Book Expo vlogs that are going on right now is finding out all these awesome food places in New York. So as soon as she started checking out all these food places, I had to go on my Google Maps and see if they were real and mark them down so I could go try them. And it actually turned out like one of them, I think it's the Levain Bakery, I already had marked on my Google Maps because it's such a famous bakery. And so all of like the places that she listed are real. At one point she goes to visit this college and she goes to a taco place, I think it is. And I looked it up on my Google Maps and it's a real place. And if I'm ever in North Carolina, like I'm totally going to eat there. And, so food was definitely a huge part of this trilogy, and I love food, and so I loved that part. That might have been one of my favorite parts. But then also like just like all of the cute love romance drama, I really, really enjoyed it. I loved her writing style of the author, Jenny Han, and so I really loved the series. I am totally keeping this series. I am holding on to it. I'm going to be rereading it. I'm going to like cook everything in it because it sounds so delicious. And I think like if you guys love chick flicks, if you guys love baking, oh, I forgot to say scrapbooking. So yeah, she's really, really into scrapbooking, and I went through a phase where I was really into scrapbooking. And I made a scrapbook for one of my best friends, and it took me like a year, I think, to make the scrapbook. Like, it took me forever to make it, but it was worth it, and it was gorgeous. And I don't know if she actually still has it. I hope she does, but I had so much fun making her that scrapbook. And she mentions in here, I think at one point, she's like, anyone who does scrapbooking knows that it takes like a year to make a scrapbook. I'm like, yep, I know that. I've been there. But yeah, so as I was saying, anyone who loves chick flicks, anyone who loves baking, who loves scrapbooking, who loves just following high school adventures of people falling in love and trying to figure out relationships, then these are the books for you. There is a little bit of heartache in it. I definitely probably cried at least once reading these, but I love the series, and I think you guys will enjoy the series too. And so I highly recommend it. And I will see you guys later. Bye.